Joining me now to talk Bitcoin and much more is Brandon Rakszawski, Director of Product Management for Van Eck. Brandon, say your last name for me so I get it right on camera.
The old Polish name, Rakszawski. Yeah.
So happy to have you. Thank you so much for
here.
joining. And of course, the Bitcoin surge generating plenty of optimism among investors. I know, in fact, your CEO, Van Eck, recently said this, quote, "My basic premise is ultimately Bitcoin's value will be half of that of all the gold outstanding." So you're talking about something like 300,000 for Bitcoin. What are your thoughts on the industry at large?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the election outcome, it's basically a sea change in terms of policy support. So we've seen a lot of enthusiasm around the space, a lot more investor interest, and the market's evolving. So the ETFs came to market, and it attracted a ton of retail investor assets, and we're seeing more support, more liquidity added to the market with options, and we expect more institutional assets to follow, and this policy support is going to be a major tailwind for the industry.
I know your colleague, Matthew Siegel, recently said that the SEC will approve a Solana ETF for Van Eck before the end of the year. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, listen, Matthew and his research team are very excited about the new realities that the crypto markets are facing. I think there's a lot of possibilities on the horizon, and it could just be good for the crypto ecosystem as a whole. And he's very bullish on various types of digital assets, from Bitcoin as a store of value, kind of a digital gold, straight through to the various technologies that these protocols can be built upon.
Are there now correlations that can be made between what we see happening in the economy and the price of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, there's correlations that change pretty drastically over time with Bitcoin. It's a very, flexible asset. It has been in its infancy, so it's developing, it's maturing, and I think we're going to start to see, more of Bitcoin prices tied to different economic factors as more and more governments perhaps adopt Bitcoin as a reserve. And there's going to be a lot of developments in the space that I think we'll have to keep an eye on.
We see more funds being approved in this space across the world, notably in Europe. What does that lend itself in terms of the industry?
Yeah, it's growth. It's a growth story. We're in the early innings. I mean, we've seen some of these Bitcoin ETFs in the U.S. surpass the size of many of the largest gold ETFs that are out there in the market. So it's been really fascinating. I think it's going to expand that ecosystem, and ultimately the broader adoption of digital assets by the institutional community is really what's on that next frontier.
And I know spot Bitcoin ETFs finally approved in the U.S. earlier this year. I think that sort of jump-started a lot of the activity that we had seen, or bullishness at least, in the crypto space. And decisive victory by former President Trump, soon to be incoming President Trump, also giving this area a boost. What does the ETF expansion look like for Van Eck globally?
Listen, we were an early adopter, really, in digital assets. We were on the forefront trying to get a spot Bitcoin ETF approved in the marketplace. I think we're going to see different evolutions of these products. We had our Ether ETF approved and is in the market. We filed for a Solana ETF, of course, and that's what you referred to earlier. So expanded product availability, making this easier for investors to access digital assets within their brokerage account. I think that's important, because you see various exchanges and custody options that really kind of fall outside of some of the regulated financial industry.
So with the equity market near record highs, Bitcoin, I'm sure, at a record high as of this morning, what do you see the most uptick in demand across your products? So
the major trend that we've seen in terms of demand has been tied to a lot of these new technologies, whether it is crypto assets or even AI and the chip demand that we've seen, which is nuclear, believe it or not. So nuclear energy has been the top trending investment theme that we've seen over the last month or two, and that really ties to the demand for AI, the demand for power and data center electricity. And all these big tech companies have made major announcements partnering with both public utilities to try to secure electricity for all of the potential data center demand that they're going to see, as well as partnering and investing in really innovative next generation technology around small modular reactors, micro reactors. So we've seen this entire nuclear ecosystem, which for all intents and purposes sat dormant for the better part of 10 years, really be reinvigorated by this increased demand for power.
I want to hear more about how incoming President Trump's agenda could impact the market and the space that Van Eck is in, specifically when it comes to the topic of the deficit.
Yeah, I mean that, our firm view, and we've been talking about this for a little while now, is that's essentially, the risk that's hiding in plain sight. I mean, deficit levels are very high, and with the expected expansion of deficit levels into next year with the new administration, we think that will become a major topic in the marketplace. It's really being overlooked, I think, because the markets in the U.S. are so strong right now. The markets are up. There's growth. Unemployment has stayed relatively low. So we're in this spot where these massive risks that are potentially going to be talked about in the future are not really being talked about right now. So I think that's going to be a major topic moving into 2025.
Brandon, so good to get your take. I hope you join us again here on NYSE TV Live. Of course, Brandon is the Director of Product Management for Van Eck. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.